Alright, what's up guys? It's Eventon here. Wanted to make this video here real quick, obviously talking about Abyssal Modules. I honestly love using these things because it basically allows you to push beyond the normal limits of the modules like original intention, let's say. You can do some really amazing things, so I'm actually going to break up this video in a few different sections, like what kind of impact it can have on your ships, where can you create them, where can you buy them, and if you just want to skip the whole RNG aspect, because making these honestly can be quite addicting. I know some people that try to create these modules and they spend hundreds of millions of ISK and end up getting some really bad rolls, but at the end of the day, if they get one good one, sometimes you can sell that one for easily north of $1 billion. It just really depends on the types of things you're trying to make. So we'll go ahead and take a dive into it here, but first, I'm actually really happy with the results I've seen so far with people submitting their kind of their non-ore mining ships, let's say, and I love it so far. So there's been a little bit more than half a dozen people that have entered so far. So if you guys haven't checked out my video about the Gita 4.4 update, about the station, but also more importantly about my giveaway that I'm doing. I'm probably going to do it on either Saturday or Sunday. I mean, the cutoff is going to be the downtime between Friday and Saturday. It just depends on how many entries there are and how long it takes me to get the video together. So I would appreciate it if you guys could submit your entries. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. That is one of the rules that's involved as well. And then we'll go ahead and talk about the Abyssal Modules. Alright, so first things first, I actually want to show you guys the effect that Abyssal Modules can have on your ship. And some of them are really significant, and they can change the whole aspect of how you fit your ship. And in other ways, we can actually see that it can affect some small instances too. So this is my Orca fit currently that I'm using. Again, I've mentioned this before in my Orca fits video that everyone should invest in Abyssal damage control. You can get some really cheap ones that will significantly increase your overall EHP. So as we can see on this damage control, that usually the hull resistance on damage control 2s are just 40 across the board. So it's 40% for EM, thermal, explosive, and kinetic. But in this instance, we actually invested quite a bit of ISK. I'm trying to remember how much this was. It wasn't that much. I think it was like 40 million, something like that. This one, we actually ended up getting 50% resistance. So basically a 25% increase in kinetic, thermal, and explosive. And there was a slight bump to EM, but I was more concerned about those other resistances. And that's what most gankers use damage type wise to get your ship. So if we go ahead and do the simulation, we'll see here that we have 360,000 EHP. But if we replace this with just a normal damage control 2, so damage control, under damage control 2, it's only 333,000. So we're actually missing out on about 27,000 EHP, which is probably about 8%. And so that actually makes a huge difference, especially if you're getting ganked and you just want to buff up your EHP. There was another ship too here. So obviously you can see right there for basically just a small bump in cost, we can significantly increase our EHP. There was also another ship too that I wanted to show you guys, which was my Impel. And this is kind of a better example. Instead of just cranking up the raw stat boost of your ship, like I showed you here, this one will actually allow you to fit certain modules. So on this one, I had the 800 millimeter Imperial Navy plates here originally, and I was just not able to put anything in that mid slot. So I was like, I really want to put something in that mid slot, probably a cat battery, just in case I get nuded and I want to have the resistance. And I also noticed too, when I was doing a lot of jumps in my Impel, sometimes after like 7-8 jumps, and especially if those distances were really far, my battery would actually get low. And so I didn't really want to get caught jumping off of a gate with low battery, and in case I get ganked or something, I want to be able to keep my hardeners up. So that's why I actually made this investment. So if we do the simulation here, if we actually remove this cat battery here in the mid slot, we're actually able to put it back in, as you'll see. So there's the sensor medium cat battery, we can put it in there, everything's fine. But if we replace this with that 800 millimeter Imperial Navy armor plate, like I mentioned before, it's actually not going to be able to fit. So there's the Imperial Navy. That's like the best faction one I could find at the time. And then if we go back to put a battery in, it's not there anymore because it just doesn't fit. And even if we turn off the filter, put in that same sensor one back in here, now all of a sudden we're overloaded on the power grid. So we actually purposely bought a plate with reduced power grid requirement so we could actually fit in that cat battery. And so now you're kind of starting to understand hey, if I buy certain Abyssal modules, you can actually free up CPU, you can free up power grid, you can certain, I believe like shield boosters can reduce the amount of cap that it uses, so your ship could actually be cap stable if you decide to invest in certain things. So in this instance, this has actually increased HP, it has decreased mass addition, power grid, and CPU usage. So if we actually look at this, we actually have increased HP. So if we look at the normal Imperial Navy plates, you get about 2600 HP, but with these new ones that have been mutated, we got now 3400. So that's a really big jump when it comes to HP totals. So I mean, we got what, about 800 HP off of that, so that's a pretty significant difference of about 25% or so. And because the mass addition, this does help us use our warp cloak trick a bit easier as well. So now that you guys have seen like some of the things that you can do, I mean, this goes with anything that's going to be here on the market, which we're going to cover here in a second. Okay, now that we're looking at the market here, essentially what I'm going to show you is where you need to go to buy the items that you're going to use to mutate the module that you want to obviously adjust. And so it doesn't work for every module in the game, but here if you go to the regional market under Mutaplasmids, this is where you get to see like the armor ones, the damage control ones. So the armor ones, under small, you can either get like an armor plate or armor repairer, and there's 3 different tiers for each type of Mutaplasmid. There's Decayed, which is kind of like the lowest quality, Gravid, which is the medium range one, and the Unstable, which is the highest quality. All this does is basically give you a wider range of good or bad stats. So if we look at the Decayed small plate here, the range is anywhere between -5% all the way up to 10%, and it goes all the way down. So CPU usage, mass addition, power usage, things like that. And then if we go all the way down to the Unstable armor plate, so this is the best quality. So now you can see the negative goes down, but so does the positive. So the range gets much wider. And when you buy these, you can actually go ahead and slap them onto an armor plate of the right size. So you obviously can't put a small one on a large one, things like that. But once you do slap it on that module, you can't sell that module on the market anymore. You can only pretty much buy the item that you use to kind of combine them together, which I'll show you guys here in a bit. So I already went ahead and bought a small Decayed armor plate as well as a small armor thing. So here we have the small Decayed armor plate. We're going to click on that and go use. And so I just grabbed a quick 100mm steel plate on the market. You just slide that in, and then it's going to let you know, hey, these are the stats that could be changed. So obviously it goes up and down. So if we go ahead and mutate this, we'll go ahead and see how good this is. That is terrible, that's terrible, and that is terrible. So sometimes like this, things can happen. So honestly, I know some people that are completely addicted to this kind of mechanic when it comes to the Abyssal modules, because sometimes if you buy the most expensive Mutaplasmid and you apply it to one of the, like, say, faction versions of that module. So if we had a Imperial Navy 100mm steel plate, and then we rolled high stats on all those, now suddenly it's really expensive, because now you just had the most expensive module attached to the most expensive Mutaplasmid, and it just rolled really well. It's going to be extremely rare to get stats that good, especially since EVA's really known for its exponential increase in stats, especially if you start stacking stuff. So in this instance, this thing is honestly worthless. This is something you probably just want to recycle, or sorry, not recycle, but this is something you likely just want to reprocess, because the only way to sell this is on the market, and honestly no one's going to buy this on the market. So this is something you likely just want to reprocess and just take the loss on. But I know people that spend hundreds of millions or billions on these type of things, and that's all they do is they buy them off the market and they just re-roll them, because all it takes sometimes is, I mean, you can fail 10 times, but if you get that one that rolls really well, all of a sudden now you can sell that one for 1.5 bill on the contracted market. It might take you a while, but you could have it done. So yeah, there's lots of different items you can buy on here. Go ahead and play around with it. There's webifiers, there's shield extenders, there's warp disruption. So there's a lot of ways you can really manipulate the range, how much cap boost, or sorry, how much cap does it use, the amount of CPU, how fast you can move with some of the things like the astronautic Mutaplasmids. It's pretty crazy the amount of customization you can do. And I bet if you have pretty much an all Abyssal fitted ship, you can do some really crazy stuff. So now that we're done looking at the market, let's go ahead and look at the contracts here. Okay, so now that we're in the contracts tab, this is where you're going to go to buy your modules after they've been combined and made. So these are other players that have made these, and they're putting them up basically on the contract list for other people to buy. So first thing you want to do is that you go to the contract list, make sure you click on buy and sell and not courier. I just typed in Abyssal to keep it extremely general for right now, but if you are looking for something specific, sometimes the names can be quite difficult to figure out. So they're usually pretty straightforward. So it's like 5MN Abyssal Micro Warp Drive, or a medium Abyssal Armor Plate, Abyssal Assault Damage. So pretty much the word Abyssal is in there, but sometimes you have to add the word medium before things like that. So for right now, what we'll do is we'll do Abyssal Damage Control, because I'm only showing you this because this is a thing I'm a firm advocate for, which is getting if your ship is using a damage control, there's honestly no reason to not invest in an Abyssal Damage Control. And so this one, if we're looking at this, obviously it's completely trash. Like, it is literally worse than the normal damage control 2 in every way. So there's two things you mainly want to look out for when you're looking at these. I mean, other than the price point, making sure that it's an auction versus like a buy immediately, is on the left side you can see it says decayed damage control. And so as we saw on that list before, decayed is like the lowest tier you can do. And the other thing too is you want to make sure you double check the type of module it is. So this is a damage control too. So on this one, as you can see, the decayed damage control, the percentage looks to be, you can pretty much max it out at maybe 5 or 6%, because the thermal looks like it's about halfway up. But if we keep scrolling down, so let's say we keep scrolling down on that first page, so now obviously these are getting significantly more expensive, but hopefully they should be getting better stat-wise. So we're still looking at some of the decades, even all the way down here. But this is a gravid, so this is the mid-range one, and so now you can actually see, so you see that bottom one where it says thermal, 11.44%. So the wider range of percentage is just much better. So as you can see, you can invest 90 million for this one. I think this is a little bit pricey for what it's doing, because you do save some CPU, which is nice, but again, you have to double check. It says structure EM, so this isn't shield, this isn't the armor point, so this is actually a damage control too. But if we go to the very, very high end ones, you'll see that not only are people getting better rolls, but they're also using better damage control twos. So this is actually an officer module, rolled decently high, and some other people use like the syndicate one. So yeah, syndicate. So you also have to remember too that like the base stats are also a bit higher too on like the syndicate versus the damage control twos. And so these ones are worth like $1 billion. I'm not exactly sure for the price points on this, but if you guys do have a lot of money and you're willing to invest, I mean, for some people, maybe having basically 58 and 56% resistance to thermal and kinetic damage is just worth it for them. And so as you can see here, this is the unstable syndicate. So this is why it's worth so much, because if you're going to be using one of these unstable damage control mutaplasmids, and let's say you roll well, you're going to be really unhappy that you used it on maybe a Tech 1 or a Tech 2 version of damage control versus maybe like a syndicate. So if you can't afford it, you might as well go for it. But if you don't want to get caught up in the RNG of just rolling a million times hoping for something that pays off well, there are some really good mid-range ones that you can find for under like 10 million. So even this one, the very, very small penalty of an extra 2 CPU, but you basically get 5% EM and thermal structure resistance, and then a 2% increase. So this is pretty much positives across the board for only 10 million. I'm sure if you keep looking, you probably find some that are a little bit better, like even this one. This one seems to be more evenly balanced out. It doesn't seem like much when you look at it. It's like, oh, an extra 5 or 2% there. But on certain ships, especially on something like an Orca that already has a huge EM hole, or not EM hole, sorry, a huge structure hold, you'll notice that it's going to make a huge difference with the EM resistance. So another thing that we can actually look up too is the shield. So if we just type in Abyssal Shield, so we're now going to get shield extenders as well as shield boosters. So this shield booster, like I said before, activation costs, you're actually able to get shield boosters and even armor repairers that have a decreased activation cost. So you can actually make it so that certain ships are now cap stable that weren't before. So it also increases or decreases the activation time. So this one actually has 5 different stats it can change and manipulate versus some of the other ones. So again, this is all stuff that it's just so in depth. It's just too much to cover, to be honest. I don't want to cover every stat with every module possible, but It's pretty fun just to kind of go through these occasionally. I would say, you know, go ahead and just part of your daily routine, jump in here, because sometimes you can find some really, really underpriced ones that people just tend to overlook. And they're actually like really, really cheap. So I can't find any off the top of my head here, but it's actually not too bad to occasionally click on the, just type in Abyssal in here. Just do a general search, organize it by price, try and find some that are maybe under 10 million. And you can find it, because sometimes people even make the mistake of, like, let's say they buy a shield extender for 2 million and then they add the Mutaplasmid on it and it has all positive stats, but they put it up for like the exact same price of 2 million or 2.5. I mean, that's a good steal, and that's just something that you just want to slap onto another ship anyway that you're going to use as well. So, and that's pretty much it, guys. That's the abridged version of the Abyssal Modules and the Mutaplasmids and how they interact. So the next time you're fitting a ship and you feel like that you're just shy of that CPU or that power grid requirement to fit a different module, or if you want your ship to be cap stable or move a bit faster or be able to heal a little bit more, definitely check out the contracts here, see what you can pick up for a decent price. Or if you're feeling a bit lucky, go ahead and jump on the market, buy some of these Mutaplasmids, attach it to the module that you wish it to do, and hopefully it works out in your favor and you guys end up getting a really, really nice mutated Abyssal module. So if you guys have any comments or questions, or if there's anything I missed, put them down in the comments down below. And again, just as a reminder, there's basically 1.5 days left for the giveaway. I'm going to put a link to that video down in the description so you guys can check it out, see the rules, and you guys can apply yourself. It's going to be a fun giveaway, and I think I'm actually upping the rewards the more I think about it. So wish you guys the best, fly safe, and take care.